What's up guys, Chef Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So today I'm going to break down Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's leg workout, one that he actually did just a week prior to WrestleMania, leading up to his big return to the ring. Now, I feel uniquely qualified to be able to do this and break down this workout because I get a chance to work with a lot of the WWE wrestlers. And I love working with them because the athleticism and the aesthetic component kind of have to blend, and the ability for me to look at it from two different perspectives as a physical therapist and also a trainer lets me look at this, I think, uniquely, which might be beneficial to you as you see me break down what's going on here. And as we look at what's going on here, we see The Rock stalking the weight room. By the way, if you guys have not, or you ever wondered what it would look like in a stadium weight room, this is what it looks like. You know, all the guest weight rooms, visiting side weight room, they're kind of about this size, equipped this way. Now, you might have missed something there. We're gonna go back, because I want you to focus on the other side. Again, the PT in me saw something that jumped out, and I wonder if you did too. Do you see anything happening here that's kind of strange or looks different? I'll stop it for you and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Right there. If you see, this muscle right here is jumping out on that calf, and there's really nothing going on this side, as you'll see as he walks. Right there. And again, you can see that muscle jumping out. What is that? That's actually something called the Plantaris muscle, and it's a vestigial muscle that we don't all have. Matter of fact, 7 to 20% of the people watching this video don't have to worry about it because they don't have it. But The Rock, of course, he's got every muscle, so of course he's got it, but why is it jumping out on one side versus the other? Usually it's associated with some kind of an injury, and I had to go digging back a little bit, but The Rock had a torn Achilles tendon on that side, so when the calf muscles are disrupted by the tear, well, that other muscle, the Plantaris, kind of hypertrophies more than normal to compensate, and that's why you see it sticking out all these many years later. It was a compensation that actually served him at that time, but it disrupts the way that his calf looks right now. Now, The Rock has had a lot of injuries in his history that I think play a part in the type of training that you see, but I also think contextually you're going to want to remember that the time of when you see this workout being done leading up to WrestleMania is what's most important. So what do the exercises look like then? Well, the first one up here is a unilateral leg press. And I think what you want to look at really right away is the foot placement. If you stop and look, we got high foot placement. So right away, that's going to diminish the effect that this exercise has for the quads. And again, that might be by design because Dwayne is an athlete, and obviously he realizes how important the posterior chain is, especially when you look at his injury history. So training with his feet up high is probably by design, and it's a good thing. However, I will say, as you look at this exercise being done, a few things I don't like about it. I've covered this in a previous video. When I stop here at the bottom, look at the position here of the hip in relation to the torso. It's pretty steep. There's a lot of hip flexion here. And when you actually go and look at the extension, he's still very flexed in terms of his torso, right? He never reaches full hip extension. That would be down here. So this exercise is not the greatest when it comes to targeting your glutes because it doesn't get that full hip extension. But what he'll do in general in this whole workout is one giant circuit. So this exercise will be the first that you see in a circuit. Here he's doing 10 repetitions on each leg. Another thing I want to point out though, is if you look at the weights he's using, these are by no means the maximum weights that he can handle. He's got 2 plates on each side. The Rock is used to actually doing this exact same exercise with much heavier weights. So before you come and look at this through the one lens of hypertrophy, like some people do, realize that may not be the target goal here of the workout. And you got to look at it with the right context in mind, which is something that I think I'm always able to do. He takes just the amount of time it would take for him to walk over to the next exercise. In that case, it's what we see here, and it's the vertical leg press. Now, this machine is not one of my favorites, if I'm going to be honest here. And there's a few reasons why. Number one, if you look at the position once again, we've got a lot of that hip flexion, right, relative to his torso, and you don't get a whole hell of a lot of extension. That's about it right there. And the reason why you're kind of still stuck here short of a fully extended leg, a lot of times happens to do with the tightness in someone's hamstrings. Because if you ever did a straight leg test for your hamstrings to see how flexible they were, where you pull your hip up to 90 degrees and then you try to straighten your knee out, a lot of us won't be able to straighten our knee because we don't have the hamstring flexibility across those two joints, the hip and the knee. Well, in this machine here, you have to have that because your legs have to be vertical or full extension at the top, and they also need to be at about 90 degrees to your torso, and we don't have that. The next thing that happens is when you look at the exercise, again, if you're using a lot of weight, which The Rock once again is not, he's using 2 plates on each side here, so 4 total plates, you get a lot of compression coming down. And some people talk about it being a bad back exercise, low back exercise, but more specifically for me is it's a bad SI joint exercise. And it can just cause even just a little bit of a disruption there where you feel out of whack and you keep wanting to push and kind of move because it doesn't feel right. A lot of people will get some irritation of the SI joint from the exercise. So again, The Rock knows what he's doing, guys. And again, with his history of injuries, I'm sure he's very attuned to why he uses what he uses. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But what you'll see once again is he's doing 10 repetitions here. Again, not to all-out failure because this is being done as part of one big giant set. He took 5 exercises and performed them 30 seconds rest or so in between, walking from one to the next and just keeping it going. And now we see him using one of my favorite machines, which is the belt squat. So now, first of all, watch the position here, right there. So you'll see that the torso angle is much steeper. It's much more open. And when we get into that steeper angle or open angle, now we can more effectively target the quads, right? Now, how low does The Rock go? A lot of people get on him for the depth. Again, you don't have his hips, you don't have his history of injuries. What I do think is happening when you see at the very end, it all kind of ties together, is his goal here is to just keep tension on the muscles. So rather than go all the way through full range of motion, he's staying sort of more in the mid-range here, or the middle 2/3 of the range of motion. Because tension is a driver of hypertrophy, even when it occurs in higher rep ranges, right? Or if it occurs in this cluster of a giant set. And there's actually been studies that show whether you utilize drop sets, whether you utilize these giant sets, they are capable of driving hypertrophy. I'm showing you one study right here. We know that this will work. Why? In this case, mostly because of that metabolic fatigue. The accrual of metabolic stress can be a driver of hypertrophy. So don't always discredit the validity of a workout simply because the weights that are being used aren't satisfying your needs for really big, heavy weights. Believe me, as I said, I don't think The Rock is really hurting in the realm of hypertrophy. And again, he's getting himself ready to perform just a week later. Which brings me to the next exercise, which happens just 30 to 45 seconds after the last one, is the inverted hack squat. Okay, and here, once again, you can see the loading. It's pretty consistent. 2 45-pound plates on both sides. And again, The Rock has done these exercises with a lot heavier weight. So here I would argue that the goal is probably, once again, to target more of the glutes, right? We've got the glutes being, and hamstrings, predominantly being worked here because, once again, we've got that steeper angle right here that's created by facing down this ramp with the feet. If I were to have him face this other way, facing out this way, you can see that the feet would go angled up, he'd have a more upright torso, and he would turn this more into a quad exercise. So for sure, I think the purpose that The Rock is choosing these exercises and why he's doing the way he's doing them is probably to target more of the glutes and hamstrings. And again, an athlete's gonna know that. An athlete's gonna instinctively know that that's probably most beneficial, and especially one that's had a history of injuries, they're gonna know to train more preferentially the posterior chain. Again, let me pause this. There's no absence of quad size here on The Rock, okay? I don't think we have any debate here whether or not The Rock needs to train his quads more to get bigger quads. That's not part of his problem set. So how he does these exercises and the way he's doing them kind of makes sense to me. And again, this is the fourth exercise in to this giant set, which then leads from this one directly into the next exercise and the last one in the circuit. And it's the dumbbell walking lunge. And once again, take note, look at that forward trunk lean, right? Again, making sure to put more of the effort right here on the glutes and posterior chain. Again, I'm speculating as to why I think this is the focus for The Rock here, but I actually think that I'm pretty accurate because again, he's got 2 options there. If you want to make it more quad based, all you have to do is just maintain a more upright posture. Keep your chest up high, your shoulders back. It's going to direct the force directly down into the quads more preferentially. That's the great thing about the exercise in the first place. Obviously, The Rock is taking the option to lean forward more. Now, as we look into the next thing, this is a tip I always tell you guys about to do this exercise properly. Look at the step direction here. The step direction is not straight ahead. Okay, instead, what you see The Rock doing is stepping up and then out and up and out. So he's increasing here this base of support between his feet. And by widening that base of support, you take balance out of the exercise. So it no longer can be the thing that prevents you from either handling heavy enough weights or performing the exercise without falling over. Because this is truly one of the best exercises you can do. And even if you do something like a barbell variation like I'm doing here, and I'm stepping in the direction I can't even see, I can still maintain my balance as long as I'm remembering to not just step straight back, but step back and out to keep that base of support wide. So now the next thing you might look at is, why is he stepping like this? Why is he kind of taking this exaggerated step up and then down? Well, I'll tell you why. It's that reason right there. See, if you look at the back leg, not the one that's exaggerated in terms of the step, but the back leg here, you see how straight he gets it? This is going to become a very important part of this exercise. I'll show you again. Here, the front leg becomes the back leg, and look how straight that back leg is right here. It's through full extension. So if you remember back when I had some issues with the glute activation that we get through the high-legged leg press or even the vertical leg press, never really truly getting through full hip extension, you're getting it here, and you're getting it in this closed chain manner because you're walking on the ground. But you're getting knee extension, you're getting hip extension, you're even getting that triple extension through the ankle as he lifts to take that next step. So the point of that lift in the step is to basically allow for two things really. One, to allow that back leg to actually straighten fully, because without that high step, you won't get enough height to do that. And the second thing is, again, with someone that has knee issues like The Rock, this is going to be a softer landing for him, right? Anybody that's had any type of knee issues like myself personally, anytime you keep your foot low and kind of hit it into the ground at sort of a declining angle, you're going to feel some of that anterior knee stress. When you take that top-down approach and land more softly, you're not getting all that forward stress into the knee. And if you have had any history of knee problems, not only would doing it this way alleviate some of that on the lunge, I would actually prefer that you do something more like the reverse lunge that I showed, because you take even more of that stress away. But again, this seems to be working for him. The depth is actually good enough for the same reasons we talked about before. Now he's taking a little bit of a break here. And again, you'll see one more time here as he gets to the front, the width between his feet. Again, widening that base of support, not allowing balance to be the reason why he doesn't do the exercise, or that you don't do the exercise. Because let's face it, you likely don't do the exercise because it burns and it's tough. But it's one of the best. Look at that. Look at that base of support. Again, you can see it here. It's pretty wide, instead of having his feet sort of in line this way. So now that actually wraps up his fifth exercise in the complete giant set. From here, he said he usually does 2 rounds of this. So he'll go back, he'll rest 2 minutes in between, and he's very specific about the rest time he takes between his giant sets, because as always, we all tend to sort of let time get away, especially when our legs are burning still, but that is a training variable that you want to make sure you stay on top of. If you rest 2 minutes versus 10 minutes, there's going to be a different training effect. The Rock likes to keep his rest times very definitive. He goes right back through the entire thing again, and in this particular workout, goes through it for even one more time, 3 total rounds. But he's not done, because he comes back inside and he does this. And this is a stiff-legged deadlift with dumbbells. And the first thing I want you to see is look at the position of these dumbbells here in relation to his legs. Clearly, they're very close. He's actually dragging them up and down his shins. And the reason for that is to take away any unnecessary strain on his low back. And when any of us do any variation of either a stiff-legged deadlift or even an RDL, if you let the dumbbells or barbell drift too far away from your body, you're instantly going to put a lot of strain on the muscles of the low back, which could cause issues. But you want to make sure you're dragging them, and of course, he does that properly. A couple other interesting things here to point out. As he goes down, look at where all the movement's coming from. Again, perfectly demonstrated here, the hinge, right at the hip. When we teach the hinge, we tell people to imagine that there's a drawer right here behind them that's open. And the only way that you can close it is with your butt. So you have to allow your butt to drop back in this direction like that to actually close the drawer. You're not looking to lean forward at all. This is not a bending exercise. This is a drop back exercise, getting the hips to do all the motion backwards. And he's got that done perfectly. Look at that, right at the hips. The dumbbells are just kind of going for the ride up and down. The next thing I want you to point out is, look at this, even at the bottom of the exercise here, look at the straightness here of the low back, right? In order to get these dumbbells all the way down here, he basically has the low back not only just straight, but even in a little bit of a lumbar curve, and he definitely does not have any of this posterior tilt going on in the pelvis. So that indicates to me is that he's got good hamstring flexibility. Remember we talked about in the vertical leg press, that can become an impediment to you being able to do the exercise properly because you need to have your hips up at 90 degrees and your knees straight in order to get the extension through the quads. He was keeping it in that middle 2/3, likely again, for that reason of keeping the increased tension out of the muscles throughout the entire workout. Because I don't think it's due to a limitation in his hamstring length as evidenced by what we're seeing here. So again, this exercise could be done with a barbell, could be done with the dumbbells here. It's not particularly heavy as nothing has been in the whole workout, but he mentions doing it at the end of his workout, kind of like a dynamic stretch. If I had to grade this workout or just at least give my feedback, the leg press, not one of my favorite exercises for the reasons I said. So instead of trying to fight the disadvantages that are there for the posterior chain, glutes, and hamstrings, I would probably just lower my feet down and try to make it more of a quad-based exercise. Or just perform a different exercise altogether that's better at targeting the glutes. And for me, that would be a barbell hip thrust, which is one that The Rock has actually done quite a bit of. As far as the vertical leg press, that one I just don't really like at all. I'd much rather see a Bulgarian split squat. And in that case, you'd have the choice of whether staying upright for more quads or leaning forward for more of the glutes and hamstrings. The belt squat, one of my favorite exercises. You could say maybe a little bit deeper there, but again, there are benefits to staying in that range that he was in because of the compounded effect of doing that now the third exercise in a 5-exercise circuit. So just generating all that tension to get that metabolic effect. The reverse hack squat, I actually have a bear squat machine in my gym, and I probably wind up doing something like that because I am facing in, and I love it. I think it's one of the best exercises because it distributes the load differently than a bar on my back, so I don't have to worry about that stress, but I also feel like it feels good and my knees feel really good, most importantly on that. Lastly, the walking lunge. Again, one of my favorite exercises of all time. I would just prefer, for me personally, going backwards. So doing a reverse alternating lunge would feel better on my knees without really compromising any of what we saw there. Step leg deadlift, again, great exercise, and saving the stretching for the end of the workout, a great idea. So guys, if you like the workout, you want to add your own comments, make sure you do. If you want to see others for me to cover, make sure you leave them in the comments below. If you're looking for athletic style workouts that we have right over at ATHLEAN-X.com, you can find plenty of them, as well as our training supplements. Make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when I put one out. All right guys, see you soon.